here, I'm told, and I'm here, I'm told, unless they tell us something differently. This is EU and Serbia, a strategic partnership for the future. My name is Kevin Barron. I am the executive editor of Defense One, a media partner for GlobeSec this year. I am a journalist from Washington, a Pentagon reporter by trade. We're a national security website that covers business threats, technology around the world, and of course, international policy conferences like this one. And it's my pleasure to have the one-on-one interview now with President Aleksandra Vučić from Serbia. So please welcome to the President. This is a high-level conference of people that know probably a lot more about Serbia than I do in this room. So my intention is that this is not to be a long conversation between the two of us with a few questions at the very end, but rather my job is to bring you into the conversation and make sure that everyone gets a chance, or most people get a chance, to ask the President questions about anything you like, probably about the EU. That's the title of the session. Mr. President, first of all, welcome and congratulations on your re-election recently and your swearing in this week to your second five-year term.
And the last one.
We've heard already from our speakers today. Ukraine is the main topic, even though a lot of these sessions are titled about the EU. It's all wrapped in together. And in your election, I think perhaps more than a lot of events around Europe right now, encompasses the crossroads of the difficulties with Ukraine, with the EU, with relations with Russia. You said, in all my research for our meeting here, you said in your either campaign speeches or victory speeches or in your swearing-in speeches that you want EU membership, pushing for EU membership, but at the same time, the big news of the last week or so has been this gas deal with Vladimir Putin and Russia. For 3 years, meeting Serbia's needs on one hand for energy and meeting Serbia's needs for everything else that comes with EU membership. So my first question to you is, can you do both? Or I guess if your answer is going to be yes, how can you do both?
Everybody is doing both. Sorry that I'm saying something that someone don't want to hear it, but the truth is that you cannot survive without gas supply, and we have always been fully dependent on Russian gas, 100%, and there are several other EU countries, but gas supply is not even on a sanction list. It's not a question. There are a few countries that actually refuse to use Russian gas, but they are just reversing the gas and paying that special tax to the neighboring countries, but still they are using Russian gas. We're doing our best to diversifying our energy supply, and had a good discussion today morning with Maroš Šefčovič here, and we'll create a new strategy together with European Union, seeing how we can get real gas supply from tap and TANAP. In the future, for that we need to build, and we are constructing that interconnector between Bulgaria and Serbia, and we need to start constructing interconnector between North Macedonia and Serbia as well. And that would be an opportunity when we can decide differently. And actually, we need to survive, we need to act rationally and pragmatically, although I know that nobody wants to hear these words. You know, when you have a sort of hype in which everybody is just reiterating and repeating the same, it's very difficult for any kind of rational talks. But yeah, well, our main and strategic goal is becoming a part of European Union. We have some specific issues to tackle with, including Kosovo issue, which we see differently from some member states. And at the same time, because you mentioned that yesterday, I swear in the Serbian parliament, I was speaking about necessity of reaching compromising solution with Pristina, and that's what we need to do in the future, and that I believe would create new possibilities and new opportunities for reaching this full-fledged membership status within the European Union.
What are the steps to EU membership then, specifically regarding this gas deal? We heard from von der Leyen this morning that one of the key goals for the EU is energy independence. So if you have to have this deal to survive, but your path is for the EU, have you had meetings? Is there a plan that you're looking for? That what are you willing to do to apparently the need to cut off from Russia to achieve energy independence that is called for by the head of the EU herself?
The issue is that in Southeast Europe, Hungary, Serbia, I hope that Bulgaria will be able to getting enough quantities of LNG, because they got some promises from Washington, and I'm still not certain 100% that is going to be valid this year or another year, but no doubt that there were no quantities of gas enough for us. 6 years ago, I went for the first time to Baku, speaking to Ilhan Aliyev on this, and then we couldn't afford, or they could not afford, any quantities to Serbia. Now we spend almost 3 times more than we used to 10 years ago. It's 3 billion cubic meters annually, and it's gradually, these numbers are gradually increasing, and it means that with this 10 billion cubic meters of new gas through TAP and TANAP, there would be some possibilities to get something of that, to get a chunk for us. But still, we don't know, and that's why we need to build this. It's very important for us to building this gas infrastructure, gas interconnectors between Serbia and Bulgaria, Serbia and North Macedonia. Then we'll be able to receiving it, and then you can diversify your gas supply, and that's what you can do. Before that, we can't do it.
I want to talk a little about Russia and its relationship to really your election, your coalition, and the political struggles that we're hearing about from Serbia. In some of the reporting on the election, the AP wrote, the Associated Press wrote, that opposition groups and foreign observers said the April vote was far from being free and fair, and that Vucic's autocratic rule sidelines the government and parliament. OSCE had an election report that was more forgiving. That said, what the elections were not bad, I'll paraphrase it. But your party claimed, or you claimed 60% of the votes, but lost a significant number of votes since the 2016 election. Like in many other European countries, the right wing of Serbia is gaining seats. So complicated politics with a complicated history. Explain to folks here, what does Putin mean to Serbia, and why why there's a struggle within Serbia to still align with Russia even 4 months into this war with Ukraine, when so many other sharp changes have happened across Europe?
First of all, thank you for asking me this question, because it gives me an opportunity to saying the truth. I'm not going to speak about elections. I believe that people of Serbia spoke in a way they wanted. When you say you got less, it's good that people here should know that I won in the first round, getting 61% out of valid votes, which is not bad. Speaking about parliamentarian elections, we could have done better. Speaking about parliamentarian elections, yes, we had a very bad result with getting 43% as a political party, but the second one got 12, just for people to know here. The issue is that many right-wing parties got much bigger support, and exactly because of Russian-Ukrainian war. Because we were acting, I believe, in a very responsible way, and many of our voters were very angry with us because we voted at United Nations General Assembly against Russian incursion, Russian invasion, whatever you call it, against Ukraine. Because people in Serbia, not because people in Serbia, they have something against Ukrainians. No, nothing at all. We consider them as true friends. The issue is that people in Serbia still remember what happened in 1999. We have more history than we can swallow, that's true. And in 1999, Serbia was bombed by 19 NATO countries. And now they say, well, when you were doing that, you were not speaking about territorial integrity. Now we hear these words, territorial integrity, every single day. But at that time, you didn't care about territorial integrity of Serbia. Sorry that I'm very blunt and very open. And of course, you have traditional ties, very good traditional ties between Serbia and Russia, which is not easy. Not easy always to explain it, but yeah, that's what really hurt us at election day. At the same time, I believe that we should act pragmatically, that our strategic goal should remain European Union. That's what I emphasized yesterday. And we are not aligning with Russia because we condemned in a legal and political way what happened in Ukraine, and in a very clear way. There is one thing that is very much true, is that Serbia did not impose any sanctions against Russia so far. But you need to understand our political situation, that so far we have had always support from Russia and China on Kosovo issue, on territorial integrity issue of Serbia. If we do it differently, we're gonna lose that kind of support. On the other hand, you have to know that today 42% of people in Serbia, they think that it was something wrong, that incursion against Ukraine. 35%, they don't care. But still you have 77% of people in Serbia, 76.7% of people that are against any sanctions. You can of course always impose your will against the people, but that's not good. You have to speak to people and you have to see whether there are any reasons for that. And I believe that politically, legally speaking, we did our job in a very principled way, and because we'll always be on the side of Ukrainian territorial integrity. But here we come once again to the question why all these people that are very strong today in their wishes, in their demands and their requests to keeping territorial integrity of Ukraine were not at vocal in 1999.
One of the other aspects of European unity mentioned earlier today was the extraordinary step of funding or arming the Ukrainians against the Russians. Is that something that you can see, you could envision happening under your
we have always been helpful when we were asked to donating money or medications, and we donated so far 3 million euros plus humanitarian aid. I'm going to visit Ukrainian refugees tomorrow afternoon in southern region of Serbia, close to Vranje, and we were very helpful to them. That's what we can do. But speaking about the ordnance, armament, weaponry, we are not going to be a part of a war.
Why not?
Why not? Because we don't want to be a part of a war.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, if you have a question, by all means, raise your hand.
You know, when you ask that question,
yes.
Just, Kevin, just put yourself into our shoes. Would you do that if you were asked? Because in 1999, who was helping us? And there will always be people that would say, well, it's not true. And then I would say, well, you were using the same narrative. Exactly the same narrative. Some people were saying in 1999 we were preventing genocide. And some people are today saying we are preventing genocide, but from the other side. Today you don't like these words. But 23 years ago, you like those words. If you have, either you have principles, either you don't have it. But if you have principles one day, you cannot change it within 20 years.
Okay. Those who have questions for the audience,
you shouldn't invited me, you know, because I'm not a part of this mainstream, you know, very vocal political opinions.
That's why you're here.
Yeah.
If EU membership is your goal,
you have to find someone.
EU membership comes through.
You have to find someone to punching him badly. Okay, good.
Well, you can raise your hand. You can use the Slido app as well, which they will be feeding questions to me here. And in addition, we'll have a word.
There is Team Judah eager to killing me.
We will. And in addition, soon we will have a word cloud for you to participate in once we get a couple more questions. And so I'll go to the vigorous waiver behind me. Yes. We have a microphone coming to you.
Thank you very much. I'm Tim Judah from The Economist.
Could you stand, please? Thank you for the cameras.
Thank you very much. I'm Tim Judah from The Economist. Now that Ukraine, Georgia and Moldova have applied for membership, is this something that you, Serbia and Western Balkans in general, can leverage and use to encourage Brussels and EU and member states to say, look, fine, they want to apply, but what about us? It's time to sort of use this moment to accelerate our accession process. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, is anyone talking about it? I mean, are you...
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tim. You know, you can laugh at me now. I'm a political veteran and we all learned our lesson, and it looks like this. Whenever we go to Brussels, and we go very often, and whoever comes from the Western Balkans, doesn't matter whether it's someone from Montenegro, Bosnia, North Macedonia, Serbia, doesn't matter. We all learned a lesson saying, you need to speed up all these processes because we have a sort of exhausted and tired people. Now use this opportunity, and you know, then all those people are fed up with us listening the same type of story for 10 or 20 years, and then nothing happens. This time we are not saying this, but we expect something, Tim. We expect something to be changed, and it's not, okay, we know our obligations, and I know that we need to do a lot of things regarding rule of law, democracy issues, media issues, and all the other issues. And I know that we need to reaching a sort of compromise between Belgrade and Pristina before we get into the European Union. But the issue is that we need to see a sort of determination and decisiveness among member states and in the Brussels as well. We are profoundly grateful to them because they have always been helpful to us regarding the most terrible floods that we faced with in 2014, migrant crisis, even any single or particular crisis that we were facing with. We have always been getting some fundings from the European Union, but the issue is whether you really count on us or not. If you do, we can really speed up our work on different type of reforms. And I hope that it might happen. I hope that it might happen, because if I can foresee, I don't expect that something might happen regarding the Western Balkan states in June. If there is someone who can gain something, and I'm not certain about it, it's going to be Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldova. I don't believe that something will be changed with North Macedonia and Albania, as many others believe differently. But I'm a skeptical guy, I told you. You shouldn't invite me. Anyway, nothing will happen with Serbia and Montenegro, no doubt. But we'll have to do many more things before December. I put a lot of hopes for December on next IGC, and I believe that we can do a lot of our homework, and in the meantime, I think that the situation in Europe is going to be much clearer than today, and then we'll have bigger decisions from Brussels and Berlin and Paris in particular, to be very honest, and then we can expect something bigger and something better for the Western Balkans. Not this time, not in June. That's what I believe in, but here are 20 days before that IGC on 23rd of June. We'll see whether I was right or not.
Someone right here in the middle.
Simeon Chomokos from the Delphi Economic Forum, Mr.
Thank
President. Congratulations for your new appointment. You are the undisputable leader in Serbia, there's no doubt about it. You have led the Serbian nation for these last years. You are going to do it for the next few years. What do you think is, what kind of legacy you would like to leave behind? I mean, what is your vision? How would you like to see Serbia, emerging, when you are in the exit of politics?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tsamokos. Can I make a joke? Which is...
I'm not sure.
Which is not really... Which is not exactly a joke. It's... when you Google my name, apart from many terrible things, you see the recent news. Well, there were pro-Russian protests organized by Vučić regime in Belgrade. And those protests were, just for you to know, at least for you that are present here, protests against me. And they were chanting, Vučić the gay betrayed our Russia. And it was depicted in all Western medias like I was organizing these protests and that and that. And 2 days ago, when we agreed in general terms with Russians on gas arrangement, which is not bad for us, I saw Associated Press and all the other medias were saying Serbia violated sanctions against Russia. How? Which sanctions? There are no sanctions on gas. But it's always the easiest way saying something against Serbia. Oh, autocrats, dictators, and everything else. And now come to the... And then when you face that, then whatever you say, who cares? But what is really happening is that I'm very much satisfied with the economic development of Serbia. In last 2 years, cumulatively speaking, Serbia was the fastest growing economy in entire Europe. You wouldn't believe it, but it's true. We thought that we could have only Djokovic or our basketball, water polo players, the best in Europe, but in last 2 years, the biggest growth rate belongs to Serbia. In entire Europe, we invested hugely into many infrastructural projects. That is something that I believe that people will remember me and our team. Many highways, many high-speed railways, kilometers, then a lot of factories, a lot of production plants. Let's say when I became the Prime Minister, German companies were employing in our country 15,000 people. Today, German companies employ 77,000 people. 77,000 people. And still, our public debt to GDP ratio is 52%. When I became the Prime Minister, it was 79%. And we did not increase it even during COVID-19 crisis. During this crisis as well, will remain fiscal stable, and I believe that after all, people will remember that we kept peace and stability, which is not always easy for us, particularly for the nation that was the real champion of number of wars that was participated in 20th century. There is no other nation in the world that can compete with us on this. And I believe that now we are approaching a new era, and in this century that we won't have any kind of clashes with anybody in the world.
That's an economic legacy answer to the question.
Yes.
On our Slido board, one of the top questions I'd like to ask, or to read, what EU members, wrong one, where is it? Here we are. What view would Serbia, if it eventually secures EU membership, take on EU-NATO cooperation and coordination?
We have no problems with. We are not politically neutral because EU path is our strategic path. But speaking about military, we are militarily neutral because of the very obvious reasons from the very recent history. But we have a very good cooperation with NATO, particularly in Kosovo, because we need to work together with KFOR on a daily basis, and so far we have had a very good cooperation through program Partnership for Peace. We developed a lot of joint approaches, and we learned a lot, and we exchange our views almost on a daily basis with them, and we have nothing against the other countries' choices being a part of NATO. Have no problems with that, but we have our choice, which is confirmed by the Parliament's declaration being militarily neutral. That's it. But we didn't have so far any problems. Jens Stoltenberg, he used to live in Belgrade as a kid. He knows us, we know him, but it's not all about that, but he helped us a lot in bridging some difficulties from the past.
Question, this woman here.
Maria Snegova, Center for New American Security. Mr. Vučić, you've been quite a vocal critic of sanctions on Russia. What sanctions design on Russia would you propose?
I don't believe in sanction policy, but it's up to you. You're big guys, we are small guys. We cannot harm anyone apart from harming ourselves. And I'm doing my best not to harm my own country and our own people. But if someone was asking me privately, I would have advised something differently, but you have much smarter people than I am, and they'll pick the best.
I want to ask if we can bring up our word cloud before we get to our next question, and people can lodge some answers that they can show us later. Oh, it's already up. There we are. What issue is blocking Serbia's EU membership the most? What's your reaction to that?
It's what you see here.
No surprises?
No surprises at all. Of course, it's always easy criticizing someone. When you say divided population, I don't know what does it mean, to tell you the truth. But anyway, but when you say Kosovo, yes, I do understand. What does it mean? And I do understand, and that's why I'm insisting on, and not hiding that from my own people, that we need to reaching a compromising solution for the benefit and for the sake of all in the Balkans.
We'll see it change, and we'll bring in our next questioner here behind you over your right shoulder, sir. Oh, in the front. I meant the front row, but we can take both if you like. Apologies.
Samuel Abraham, academic from Bratislava. Dobar dan, gospodin.
Dobar dan.
Whenever you were asked about Putin, Russia today, you revoked back to 1990, the bombardment of Serbia, which was a horrible thing. In that year, I received faxes from intellectuals from Serbia, from Beogradski Krug, Obraćanje, and they said, do everything to stop bombardment. And the reason was that Milosevic would use it to really put them to jail, to put more police state over those people whom he could get rid of. It was a horrible thing, the bombardment, but you know, you saw Kosovo on the board. Mm-hmm. We know what legacy it is. It is a legacy of Kosovo Pole, of course. And the 1999 bombardment of Serbia is something that was, of course, caused by Milosevic in a great extent. And you cannot overcome that because the Kosovo Pole and Kosovo is such a trauma, and I understand perhaps more than many people in this room, and I sympathize with Serbians in this respect. But unless you overcome, unless you see that Milosevic was a cause, great cause for that misery, you won't have majority of Serbian stand today when Putin is a true aggressor. You know that. You cannot say it because you are dependent on Russia. There is a great community.
Can you pose a question?
Yes. And I want to ask you, when would you be able to deal with the Milosevic trauma that could help you and the Serbians to deal with Russia and Putin in a way that you should, and that would help you to get to the European Union?
Thank you.
It's a good question. The issue is that, of course, I disagree, at least partly with you, because if you justify the aggression against one sovereign state and doing that aggression without permission of the Security Council, United Nations Security Council, which was done against Serbia, then I don't know what kind of justification someone might find. As you know, for us it is today also a part of Serbia according to our constitution, but in that 1999 for all EU member states, Kosovo was a part of Serbia, and you were bombing one sovereign state, one independent state, because of something bad was happening on its territory. And there is my counter question. If someone wanted to bomb Serbia to taking 11,000 square kilometers from Serbia, well, where else that happened in the world? When you did something to Iraq, why didn't you take Basra from Baghdad or vice versa? Why didn't you do it with Aleppo from Damascus? Someone was just taking territory from Serbia, and I'm not saying that that would be good. And that's why I think that all the people should understand the reasons and why this is not very simple for us. Speaking about Putin in Ukraine, yes, we were very vocal, and we have always been defending territorial integrity of Ukraine. Serbia did not recognize Crimea as a part of Russia. It has never happened, and it won't happen. And we'll be stronger in defending Ukrainian territorial integrity than many of EU countries, because we have principles. We have principles. It's a part of UN Charter. How can you say that someone violated UN Charter, Russians violated UN Charter today, but when someone else did it? And even today we have effective Resolution 1244, which is not respected by anyone in the West. And there are no responses to this, and no one can answer to this. And this kind of red herrings, this kind of ambiguity, that is something that that is not easy for us. And still, if I was not asked by you, I would never speak about it. These are all the difficulties we need to overcome, and I agree with you on something, that we need to overcome our mythological past, partly, and we need to face the future and some tough decisions, and we'll have to do it. But you know, someone has to put himself or herself into our shoes as well, and then to see that it's not that easy, and it's not that simple as it looks. And the world is not black and white, like many people say today. Sorry that I'm once again saying something that is not very popular.
I don't necessarily believe you're saying anything that's unpopular as much as it is maybe right down the middle. You know, after this panel, I'm doing a similar panel with 3 prime ministers from the EU. And one of the differences I've noticed in my research is that some country leaders are calling for a total win. That they say over and over again, Ukraine must win. in the war, or some version of that.
Some people are expecting not a total win, but a total defeat of the other side. That's different.
That's another way to put it.
Yeah.
Others are calling for, are looking at negotiation.
And I can
even
tell
Zelensky
you-
himself says the war will end with a negotiation at some level. Where are you in between total win and playing for negotiation?
Yeah, I see that I'm here to spoiling your party. I don't believe in total wins and total defeats. We need peace as soon as possible. And then in that peace, you can defeat the others much easier than militarily. And I'm not going to speak more about it. I just don't get a sense of continuing war and killing people on both sides. Because, you know, we can discuss this, you know, like philosophically, why is that solution? But there are thousands of people that are dying on a daily basis, which is not even fair to be discussed. Anyway, I believe that we need peace as soon as possible. And then you resolve this issue with the next 15 years, 20 years, doesn't matter. One day means a lot, at least 1,000 people more alive. And you're right, there are 50% of Western countries that are hoping for total defeat of Russia, and 50% of them that are ready for some kind of Russia's defeat. I believe that peace is the only solution. And the most important thing that we need to deliver on as soon as possible. And that's what I said to President Putin when I had this telephone conversation with him 3-4 days ago, that we need peace.
Our last question I've been promising behind us.
He was speaking a lot on Ukrainian issue. Yeah, he was saying that he has always been for peace and he's going to fulfill his aims. As he was saying that to Scholz, Macron, and to everybody else. And of course I was not insisting on that. I was insisting on good solution because I'm a small guy. We have big guys that are able to make influence on him. I'm not. I have to take care of small issues for my small country and for my people.
Our final questioner, yes.
Alica Kizakova from Institute of International Relations, Prague. Mr. President, thank you for your frankness, and I appreciate hearing your perspective from you, not from media. And my question relates to China, because we spoke a lot about Russia, but not necessarily about Serbia's collaboration with China, but about 16+1. With the Lithuanian withdrawal, there's a lot of encouragement to dismantle this collaboration. And what is your take about why to preserve it? What's the benefit of having this framework in Europe? And perhaps how you envision further engagement of China in Central Eastern Europe going forward?
The China question.
Thank you.
40 seconds on the clock there.
40 seconds. Okay, I'll do my best. First of all,
take your time.
Everybody was always asking me something about Russia. But the fact is, when I became the Prime Minister 8, 9 years ago, Russia was trade partner number 2 of Serbia. Today, Russia is number 5. And the biggest chunk of our trade exchange is gas supply. China was number 9. Today, China is number 2. Germany was number 5. Today is number 1. There are a lot of changes, but Hungary, Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Romania, Bulgaria went up. All of them. And these are big changes, but nobody is noticing it. And China is by far more present in Serbia than Russia. But, you know, nobody wants to notice it because now everybody is obsessed with Russia. And we have good cooperation, good collaboration with them. I cannot criticize that because we had no problems with them so far. We had no problems, we had no issues with them. They were buying our steel mill when nobody wanted to have it when Americans were bringing back that steel mill to us for $1, as you know, in Smederevo, and then they bought, although we, according to EU rules, organized transparent procedure for our copper mine in East Serbia, and Chinese won easily, and they take care of that in a very proper way. Have no problems with that. Speaking about our own interests, we are a small country. Germany is by far #1 partner of Serbia, China is #2. But it also speaks about the others and their engagement in the region. You cannot be always present when you need something. You have to help to those small guys when they need something. Sorry that I'm saying this. And it took more than 40 seconds.
As you're entitled. No. Mr. President, thank you for answering our questions and for coming here today. I'll remind everybody to be back here in the Maria Teresa room for a session called Prepared for All Situations, the Future of Multi-Domain Operations, after a short coffee break.
Thanks a lot.